U.S. President Donald Trump is arriving in Beijing to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Vice Premier He Lifeng and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent hold talks in Seoul. And taxi drives onto sidewalk, killing 1 and injuring 4. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Ahead of his departure to Beijing, where he will be meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, U.S. President Donald Trump tells reporters trade and Iran will be on the agenda. This as the U.S. leader says good things are going to happen during his visit. Ahead of Trump's arrival, the Chinese Foreign Ministry releases a statement saying China is ready to expand cooperation and manage differences. Gloria Feng has more.
As President Donald Trump leaves the White House on Tuesday for his upcoming visit to Beijing, he tells reporters he will have a long talk about Iran with his good friend, Chinese President Xi Jinping.
We're going to have a long talk about it. I think he's been relatively good, to be honest with you. You look at the blockade, no problems. They get a lot of their oil from that area. We've had no problem, and he's been a friend of mine. He's been somebody that we get along with.
When asked whether he needs China to intervene in Iran, he tells reporters it will not be necessary. Trump says his visit will have a positive impact on the global economy overall and on oil prices, stating he will be talking about trade more than anything else. He's expected to bring up agriculture and artificial intelligence with President Xi. A delegation of high-profile U.S. executives are joining Trump on this trip. Most recently added to the list of delegates is NVIDIA's president and CEO, Jensen Huang, who was previously excluded from a lineup that includes Tesla CEO Elon Musk and Apple CEO Tim Cook. At a briefing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun welcomes Trump ahead of his arrival and says the two heads of states will discuss issues of major importance to Sino-U.S. ties, as well as world peace development.
During the visit, the two presidents will exchange views on major issues concerning China-U.S. relations and world peace and development. The two sides will act in the spirit of respect, equality, and mutual benefit and provide more stability and certainty to the world.
Gloria Feng, TVB News.
Trade issues will likely remain front and center at the Xi-Trump meeting in Beijing. A representative of the American Chamber of Commerce in China hopes the two countries can reach trade agreements that help foster a more favorable business environment. 59-year-old American entrepreneur Mike founded a content marketing company in Beijing with his wife from Hunan 25 years ago. In the 1970s, when China first opened up, the country had a good relationship with the United States. Having lived and worked in China for decades, Mike has witnessed the ups and downs of Sino-U.S. relations over the years. He says his company focuses on the China market, so recent tensions between Beijing and Washington have little impact on operations. Speaking in Chinese, Mike describes Trump's visit to China as the first step towards mending ties between the two countries. According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, the share of Chinese goods in the overall import markets in the U.S. fell from 13.4% in 2024 to 9% last year, reaching the lowest in more than 20 years. American imports into China also recorded a dip by more than 10% last year. A representative of the American Chamber of Commerce in China said he believes the Xi-Trump meeting can open doors to more economic cooperation and reduce uncertainty in the business environment.
I think we will begin to have certainty on tariffs themselves. Whatever amount that the two countries will agree to will be what we will know what to do with, and certainty and predictability is the most important item to business.
He also believes the inflationary impact caused by the disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz would likely be temporary, and that Sino-U.S. cooperation remains key to easing global energy concerns.
I think the future is going to be very bright between the U.S. and China, and our business will, as a result, prosper and profit.
Meanwhile, reduced flight frequencies between China and the United States have pushed up travel costs between the two places. Regular group tour packages from Beijing to the U.S. set tourists back some 20 to 30,000 yuan per person. Zhou Xiaobei, the sales director of a mainland travel agency, says they used to cater to around 15,000 to 20,000 tourists a year to North America, and now it's around 10,000. They hope more direct flight routes can help trim travel costs for Chinese tourists visiting the U.S. South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung has held back-to-back meetings with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Seoul. Bessent and He also held talks ahead of the meeting in Beijing between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump. Tracy Furness has more.
How are you feeling about your talks with the Chinese? The U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent arrived in Seoul's Incheon International Airport Wednesday for a meeting with China's Vice Premier He Lifeng. Chinese Vice Premier He arrived in Seoul Tuesday for trade talks with the U.S. delegation ahead of a summit this week between the leaders of the world's biggest economies, President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump in Beijing. At the South Korean presidential office, South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung discussed supply chains and critical minerals with Bessent during their meeting, the presidential Blue House said. Lee also told her in a separate meeting that Seoul would support dialogue between the United States and China, the office said. The Trump administration hopes to begin the process of establishing a board of trade with China to address differences between the countries. The board would help prevent the trade war ignited last year after Trump's tariff hikes, an action China countered through its control of rare earth minerals. This led to a one-year truce last October. He and Bessent's talks lasted 3 hours, and Xinhua news agency reported that the two sides held candid, in-depth and constructive exchanges on resolving trade and economic issues, as well as expanding cooperation. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
According to Iran's semi-official Fars news agency, Tehran has set out 5 conditions for entering a new round of peace negotiations with the U.S. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump stressed Washington is only interested in making what he called a good deal and remained optimistic a deal could be brokered. This comes as the U.S. State Department said senior American and Chinese officials agree no country can be allowed to exact shipping tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. Danny Rao tells us more.
According to Iran's semi-official Fars news agency, Tehran has set out 5 conditions for entering a new round of peace negotiations with the U.S. A source familiar with the matter said Iran is demanding an end to all fronts of war, especially in Lebanon, the lifting of sanctions, the release of frozen Iranian assets, compensation for war damages, and recognition of Iran's authority over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi said true peace cannot be built on coercive policy. He also said one cannot speak of a ceasefire while maintaining a blockade, claim to support diplomacy while intensifying sanctions, or advocate for regional stability while providing political and military support to a regime that is the source of aggression and instability. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump stressed Washington is only interested in making what he called a good deal, and remained optimistic an agreement could be brokered.
Well, we're going to see what happens. We're only making a good deal. We have their military's gone, it's wiped out, and we're only going to make a good deal, and we'll see what happens. But I believe that one way or the other, it's going to be very good for the American people, and I think actually very good for the Iranian people.
Are you reconsidering?
Elsewhere, the UK will deploy a warship, fighter jets and autonomous systems as part of a multinational security mission in the Strait of Hormuz. British Defence Secretary John Healey announced the plan following a virtual meeting of defence ministers involving representatives from more than 40 countries. This comes as the US State Department said senior American and Chinese officials agree no country can be allowed to exact shipping tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. China's embassy did not dispute the US account of the discussion, saying it hoped all sides can work together to resume normal traffic through the strait, which before the war handled 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supply. Dan Rall, TV News.
A taxi mounted a pedestrian walkway on Choi Ha Road in Ngau Tau Kok, leaving 1 dead and 4 injured. Sources said the victim killed was a woman in her 30s. Samantha Lee talked to some witnesses at the scene.
The taxi crashed into a planter in the Choi Ha Road sitting out area, with significant damages seen on the front. The crash took place at around 1:50 p.m. when the taxi was traveling near the junction of Choi Ha Road and Chunhua Road. Two women in their 30s were struck by the vehicle and were found unconscious. One of them was certified dead in hospital. The driver and the passengers on board all reported feeling unwell and were sent to hospital for treatment. It is understood that the driver passed a breath test for alcohol. This lady said she saw one victim inside the bushes and the other lying face down. She also recorded the taxi driver sitting over while clutching his chest. There are several housing estates near the Choi Ha Road sitting out area. Some residents said it is usually a very busy walkway for neighbors. The victims were rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital and United Christian Hospital separately, with some requiring oxygen masks. Current legislation stipulates that commercial vehicle drivers aged 70 or above must complete a medical examination at least once every 3 years to apply for or renew their driving licenses. 3 years ago, the government suggested tightening the grip by reducing the validity of their licenses to 1 year, lowering the age threshold to 65, and enhancing physical fitness requirements. The authorities stated early this year that preparatory works are underway, such as updating the list of fitness guidelines. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The government on Wednesday said a 50% toll waiver for all commercial vehicles will take effect from Sunday. The measure will last for 2 months until July 16th. The Mosing reports.
Fuel prices remain high amid the Middle East conflicts. To help commercial drivers and operators cope with the financial burden arising from rising energy prices, the government said vehicles, including taxis, buses, and light buses, will receive a 50% toll waiver when using tolled tunnels in the Changsha control area. Under the 2-month measure, taxi drivers will need to pay a toll fee of $12.5 instead of $25. Other commercial vehicles will pay $25. Changsha Control Area's toll fee for all commercial vehicles, meanwhile, will drop to $4. Some taxi drivers said the waiver will help them a bit. The waiver can save me more than $10 if I use the tunnels 2 or 3 times, he said. But said the measure will be fairly pointless. I think a more effective way is to reduce the fuel prices, the driver said. But the measure doesn't cover taxi passengers, meaning residents must continue to pay the statutory toll fee in full during the waiver period. Moments 9, TVB News.
And still ahead. The logo of the Shenzhou 23 space mission features a Bohemia flower. The Jockey Club collaborates with French city of Deauville on equine development. And more than 100 lawmakers signed statements backing British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Welcome back. The China Manned Space Agency unveiled the official logo for Shenzhou 23 manned spaceflight mission. The design also features a Bohemia flower, commonly called the Hong Kong orchid. Shenzhou 23 is expected to be one of the key missions in China's manned space program in the first half of 2026. The logo features a circular design. The 3 5-pointed stars in the logo correspond to the 3 Chinese astronauts who will carry out the mission. On the left, the visual centerpiece is the launch of the Long March 2F carrier rocket, accompanied by a golden auspicious cloud and the traditional Chinese ornament Ruyi pattern. While the agency's official introduction does not mention the Bohemia flower, the floral icon was mentioned in state media CCTV's online platform. The orchid is a key element of Hong Kong flag and emblem. While the identities of the 2 Hong Kong and Macau astronauts have not been officially unveiled, reportedly the Hong Kong payload specialist is Police Superintendent Lai Ka-ying. A greenhouse gas monitoring instrument jointly developed by the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology and the Chinese Academy of Sciences was launched into space aboard the Tianzhou 10 cargo spacecraft. It marks Hong Kong's first scientific payload to take part in a mission at the National Tiangong Space Station. weighing less than 80 kilograms. The Multispectral Imaging Carbon Observatory, or MUSICAL, can measure carbon dioxide and methane from space by analyzing changes in the solar spectrum. It is capable of identifying the sources of gas emissions, allowing for precise monitoring at facilities such as power plants and landfills. The Hong Kong Jockey Club in the French city of Deville signed a memorandum of understanding, formalizing a raft of collaboration between the two cities in equine sport development. Take a look.
Around 2 hours away from Paris, the seaside town of Deville is located in Normandy of northwestern France, which is home to 2 race courses, major polo events, and a world-class training center. Some 12,000 horses are born in the region each year, with Deville at the heart of Normandy's horse racing and breeding industry. With the facilitation of the Consulate of France in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Jockey Club and Deville signed a 3-year extendable MOU to formalize partnership from horse riding, supply, and polo to equine health and welfare. They include joint research on equine medicine and veterinary science, as well as retraining and rehoming of retired racehorses in Hong Kong.
Aftercare of horses for the third or second career, I think is important for the industry. And therefore, we think that is a wonderful opportunity that our horses can find new homes.
Together, we can foster new opportunities, inspire young talents, and strengthen the enduring bonds between our communities.
Hong Kong is actually well known for its excellence around the horse, but maybe less in Europe and France. So this is really the opportunity also to make it better known, and vice versa. I think Deauville is a fantastic touristic destination, also well known in Europe for its excellence on equestrian sports.
Both sides will also step up collaboration with Deauville's horse auction house, with more exchanges and business between Deauville's agents and breeders and Hong Kong Jockey Club's members who are interested in purchasing racehorses.
Deville will also facilitate more tourism packages and summer riding programs with the Hong Kong Jockey Club.
Britain's King Charles III is set to deliver the government's legislative program for the coming year to lawmakers, with all the pomp and historic trappings that accompany the ceremonial opening of Britain's Parliament. This after more than 100 Labour lawmakers, including Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, signed a statement backing British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and urging the party to avoid a leadership contest, as pressure mounted on the Labour leader following ministerial resignations on Tuesday. This as the Times reported Wednesday that UK Health Secretary Whit West Streeting is preparing to resign and could quit as early as Thursday. Tracy Furness reports.
Cabinet ministers spoke to reporters outside number 10 Downing Street following a meeting Tuesday as Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer doubled down on his resolve to stay in office.
We are working hard on the big issues that are facing the country, and Keir is showing really steadfast leadership.
The Prime Minister has my full support in this. And let me just say this. There is a process to challenge the leader. No one has made that challenge. And what people would expect me to do is to focus on how we can grow the economy, tackle the cost of living, and give them a better life.
So the Prime Minister
and that is what we're going to do.
In the top job for less than 2 years, Starmer took responsibility for one of his Labour Party's worst election defeats in the recent local and regional elections. Starmer had insisted Tuesday that he had no intention of resigning, as calls grew louder within his Labour Party for him to step down, with some junior members of his government quitting in protest and some 80 lawmakers calling for him to set a timetable for leaving office. UK Health Secretary West Streeting was seen entering Downing Street as growing speculation that Streeting would inform Starmer that his days were numbered at their meeting on Wednesday. Streeting has many supporters within the parliamentary party, including some of those who resigned from Starmer's government Tuesday. The Times reported Wednesday, however, that Streeting is preparing to resign and could quit as early as Thursday. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
U.S. prosecutors have charged the operator of the ship that crashed into Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge, leading to the death of 6 construction workers in 2024. The indictment named Synergy Marine Private Limited, based in Singapore, and Synergy Maritime Private Limited, based in Chennai, India, as well as an Indian technical superintendent for the Dali container ship, Radhakrishnan Kartik Nair.
The indictment alleges that if the Dolly had been using the proper fuel supply pumps, then the vessel would have regained power in time to safely navigate under the Key Bridge. But because the ship was using the flushing pumps, which did not have the redundancies, the ship did not regain power in time. As alleged in the indictment, Nair and others took steps to hide the use of the flushing pump on the Dolly both before and after the crash. The indictment further alleges that after the crash, Nair falsely told the National Transportation Safety Board that he was unaware that the Dolly was using the flushing pump.
Maryland officials estimate it will cost between $4.3 billion to $5.2 billion to replace the bridge. A new bridge is expected to open to traffic in 2030. U.S. President Donald Trump has just arrived at Beijing Capital International Airport. We can see it's most likely the charter flight for Donald Trump. It just landed on the tarmac at the Beijing Capital International Airport. Trump arriving in Beijing for a 3-day visit. It's been 9 years since his previous visit during his first term in office. And Trump is scheduled to meet President Xi Jinping at the Great Hall of the People on Thursday morning for summit talks. The two leaders previously met in South Korean port city of Busan in October in the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Gyeongju. Now, this latest trip comes amid a stalemate in U.S.-Iran negotiations to end the war there and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. We know that Trump reportedly he will stay in the 5-star Four Seasons Hotel in northeastern Beijing after arriving tonight. Now, we will continue to follow developments surrounding Trump's China visit and bring you the latest as their trip continues. Stay with us for more updates tonight.